What's up everyone, Tim here from Everyday Tactical Vids, and today we're testing out and putting to use my Walmart Get Home bag. So if you haven't seen the first video where I talk about the contents of my $100 Walmart Get Home bag, you can check the description section. I've got a link to that video. And the challenge today is basically me from work getting home. It's about a 13 to 15 mile walk, and we're going to test out the contents, see what we think about it, and see if it would actually help as a get home bag. I want to share a couple things with you before I actually get to walking home. The first thing is the weather. Clear skies, a couple clouds, but it doesn't look like we're going to have any rain or precipitation, but it definitely is windy. You can probably hear the wind, and in the shade here with the wind, with what I'm wearing, it's a little bit chilly. Second thing I'll tell you is about what I'm actually wearing. I'm wearing a button-down shirt, a pair of jeans, and a pair of slip-on shoes. I didn't want to wear, clothes that would be particularly great for hiking or walking a long distance, because that's not what I'd wear normally to work. This is what I'd normally wear to work, so I want to kind of deal with a most realistic type scenario. Third thing I'll tell you is that I didn't eat a huge breakfast this morning. I didn't, do a ton of gearing up for this. And also, my back has been bothering me a little bit, my sciatic nerve. And so I just thought, well, I'm gonna press through, because if a situation happens where you have to bug out or you have to get home, you're not gonna always have the greatest, health circumstances in your life or in mine. So I'm gonna try to press through that and see how it goes. I've hiked about a mile up the road, and I've stepped off into the woods, so I'm a little bit away from the traffic. And I've taken 3 items out of my pack to actually put on my person. First thing is this, which is my multi-tool. And I'm going to put this on my belt, so I've got it with me. Next thing is this compass and whistle. I'll just hang that around my neck. And the last thing is my pepper spray and my mace. So I just want to have those immediately on me. Not that I think I'm going to get separated from my bag, but nice to have the whistle, the multi-tool in case I need to do something, and then obviously just mace for whatever. I could be walking through neighborhoods, dogs, later on this evening, animals, whatever it might be. So those 3 items, stepping off the road, putting those on my person, and then continuing on the journey. Let's talk about the scenario for today. There's a variety of different reasons why you might have to just bail from work to get home, or bail from home to get to another location. In our current situation, we're dealing with Hurricane Harvey down in Houston, here in the United States. And people just had to leave their homes and get out. So, having a bag that's ready to get out of there, even if just to get to a hotel and spend, 100 miles away, 200 miles away, spend a couple nights before you can come home, at least you've got some gear ready. I can give you an example of a get home scenario, which is probably 25, 30 years ago. My dad was actually staying at work late. He was a teacher, and he was working late to grade papers. Big storm came, and they piled up so much snow in between the north and southbound sides of the road, he couldn't find a way to turn off to the neighborhood where we lived. And so basically what he had to do was ditch the car and hike from the car back home. And that was probably 3 or 4 miles, but had he had in his trunk a bunch of gear for that situation, it would have made life easier. Now, he didn't have to spend overnights and stuff like that, but those are scenarios just to have in mind why it could be good to have an emergency bag, not just at home, but maybe at work for getting home. All right, I took my hat off to cool down a little bit here, but behind me you can see one of these donation bins. And I legit know a guy who traveled around the country, and sometimes he would crawl into these at night to sleep in them. So he would just crawl in, cover himself in the clothes, and go to sleep. I'm not saying I recommend it, but it was an option that worked for him as he was traveling. And in a scenario where you need some warmth at night, maybe it's something you could do. Here's a quick update. I've walked 2.6 miles in about an hour. I've been stopping to shoot video and get some time-lapse footage and different things like that, but making pretty good time. The heat kind of fluctuates, I would say. Sometimes I'm hot, sometimes I'm cold. Not cold, but chillier because of the breeze. On the road with lots of cars passing, as you can see in the background. Definitely a lot of breeze coming from them. And I will tell you that the noise is just incessant of the cars passing and passing and passing. So, yeah, everything's going fine. My feet are a little bit tender. These shoes are pretty old and have 0 arch support. So I know my feet are going to be sore by the time I make it all the way home. But that's the update, and we're going to keep on trucking. Still going, and I'm coming up to a park here where I'm going to sit down at some benches and give you a rundown of some gear that I found along the way. I am like probably 30 feet off the road, but just being off the road, getting away from all the noise, not all of it, but at least some of it, is such a relief. Just so incessantly noisy. Wow. All right, let's check out some of the gear I found. All right, guys, so I've stopped at the local park. I've come a total of about 6.5 miles. The wind, you can still see the leaves moving in the background. Still pretty windy here, but I want to show you some stuff that I found along the way that I'll be able to use, or that at least I could use if I needed to. So for example, I found this, which is an empty milk gallon container. So I've already got a container, but if I wanted to clean that out and then use it to carry water that I purify later on, I've got that. I found this, which is like from a weed whacker, it looks like, but a very strong cordage. So I have some rope, but now I have some additional cordage. I found a glove. Okay, it's not two, it's just one, but maybe I could use this to deal with things around the fire perhaps, or just at night if I'm cold, at least I got one hand that's warm. I also found probably a dozen beer cans, soda cans, and you can turn the tabs into fishing hooks. So I haven't sharpened these up and finished them, but you can see what the beginning of them would look like. And then even with the beer cans, you can start to make things like a spoon that you could use for fishing. So just to show you, to be aware of things that you might snag along the way that you could use in the future, you know, in your bug out or get home scenario. Now I did use this multi-tool a little bit to work on the fish hooks and that little spoon, you know, for fishing out of the beer can. And the first time I tried to actually like clip through the beer can, the pliers got jammed, so I had to like wedge a stick in there to pop them open. So, you know, some people were like, oh man, you're gonna be disappointed with those. Yeah, I used them once. The pliers worked okay, but as far as the wire cutters, yeah, not so great. So anyhow, just something you gotta weigh the benefits and the options and the cost of the different pieces of gear that you're gonna pick up. Okay, we're about 8 miles in, and we've got another 5 or 6 to go. All right, guys, so let's think about a scenario here. I'm actually underneath a bridge right now. I'm on my way home, and from my office to home, there's 2 major bridges and 1 third smaller one that if any of those 3 bridges were out because of a natural disaster, it would be very hard for me to get my car home. I'd have to go, I mean, just really a circuitous route to get home. So let's just say this scenario is playing out and a couple bridges are out. Well, maybe I could drive my car to where the bridge is out, and then I could somehow get across the body of water and continue walking home. But all it takes is a big flood, a big storm, a hurricane, knock out a couple of those bridges, because I do live near the seacoast. There's lots of rivers and estuaries, and I'm in a tough situation as far as getting home. So just to give you an example there, that, you know, we're so dependent on infrastructure, but if because of a storm or something, a bridge is out, a road is out, it can make it really challenging for you to get home. And so, you know, I'm kind of playing out that scenario right now. If I couldn't get home with the car, here's what it would look like for me to walk the distance home. And again, just thinking about the scenario, you know, if I got this far with my car and maybe like parked it in the parking lot over there, I'd have to get across this body of water, and that would be, I mean, it's not impossible. I could definitely swim it, but I would be soaking wet, getting out the other side, trying to bring my bag with me. So it would be a challenging situation to have to do that. In my first video, I showed 2 kind of aluminum loaf tins, and I talked about cooking or boiling water in them, and some people said, no, I don't think that's going to work. So I want to test that theory out. I found these 2 bottles. I'm going to fill them up with water at this stream right behind me, and then we'll get to a camping overnight location, and we'll try to boil some water just to see how they work, if they work. Alright guys, here's the update. It is 5:04 p.m. and I could definitely get home if I kept walking. But just to play this scenario out a little bit, I'm gonna, in this spot of woods I've located, I'm gonna set up a camp, cook dinner, make a fire, set up a shelter, and hunker down here, rest, recuperate, have my food, water, and then, probably in the early hours of the morning while it's still dark, I'll get up and make the rest of the trek home. I'm gonna empty out a bunch of the gear and also show you some more things that I found. I found this large plastic bag that I can use as a ground cloth. And this is a huge win right here. Look at this. I mean, the only thing better than this would have been a straight up tarp, but it is a huge garbage bag. So this will either be, turned into my roof for my shelter, or I'll put this on the ground as well. But that's a huge, huge win. Got my socks that I can change into, muffin tins or loaf tins. And then the thing that's taking up the most space is this sleeping bag, which I will really like tonight. I got some rope. Got my emergency blanket, fire starter, and some more cordage. So those are the main things right now we're going to focus on. Let's get the shelter set up. Here's a look at my sleep system. What I did was I cut the contractor bag so I could lay the entire sleeping bag on top of it. I put some small sticks down to weigh down the contractor bag so it doesn't move too much. And then what I'll do at night is if I get cold or if weather comes, I can unfold the emergency blanket, which is right there, and I can throw that on top of me, so that'll keep heat in and it'll also keep weather off. So rather than set up a whole lean-to type system or shelter, this is the way I decided to set up my system. I've unloaded the backpack, and here's a quick look at the gear. Got some socks I can change into, the emergency whistle with the fire seal with the compass as well, 2 headlamps, fire starter, cordage, the loaf tins, aqua tabs for treating water, more cordage, poncho, food, which is 2 cans of tuna fish, peanut butter, crackers, a payday candy bar, and some potatoes. My water bottle, I've got poncho, matches, and then some cordage I found, a huge zip tie I found, and then down the end is my med kit. All right, I'm gonna get a fire started now. I'm gonna actually try to get a bed of coals so I can warm up my potatoes and tuna all together. I'm probably not gonna eat all of it just because in a scenario where I might have to be out another night or another full day, I wouldn't want to eat all the food, but I'm gonna cook some of it at least. And I could eat it just cold as is, but it tastes a lot better when it's warm. So let's get that fire started and get some food. The fire is burning. I'm letting it kind of burn down. Then we're getting some hot coals and then warm up our food. In the meantime, I'll just share a couple thoughts with you so far. One is that despite the fact that it's a long walk and I'm doing it in dress shoes, there are moments of beauty, seeing a lot of nature and just enjoying what is out there. When you're whipping by at 55 miles an hour in your car, it's hard to see things sometimes. So it's nice to slow down, take in some of the scenes. The second thing I'll tell you is that, in addition to man-made resources, I was just aware of what nature had to offer to me. So, in creation, there's lots of different things you can use. So I saw a cattail. I could have used some of that for the cattail fluff to get a fire started. I saw thistle. I could have used some of that to get a fire started. I saw wild apples, which was interesting to actually see that. I saw smooth sumac, and you can actually, if you get the right stuff, you can actually make kind of a refreshing, fruity kind of drink. Mix it into water. So you got to know the materials, you got to know the plants, you got to know how to use them. But there were a variety of resources out there as I was actually hiking home, and if I wanted to, I could have snagged some of those to use in this scenario. We're going to test out the can opener now, and we're going to dump all the contents into this aluminum tin here. So let's try this. Move this out of the way for now. Doing all right. A little bit surprised that it's doing so well, but it's going to get it done, it looks like. So yeah, the can opener definitely it definitely works. In an effort to not melt through these loaf tins, if that's what's going to happen, what I've done is I've taken one of the 3 and I put 1 potato in it, a little bit of the potato water, and I'm going to put this on the edge of the fire, maybe a little bit over the coals, and see if it melts through. If it does, at least I haven't wasted all my food. I don't know, maybe not. It's definitely it's got some little burn marks, but it has not just melted, and it's been on the fire for probably 5 minutes, so let's keep watching it. This tin has been on the fire for probably 15 minutes. It's still cooking the potatoes, so I'm going to try one now and see what we think. There it is. Can you see it steaming? Nice and hot, that's for sure. Let's find out how it tastes. Good to go. So I'm going to put my mixture of potatoes and tuna on the fire now. It doesn't look very pretty, but I'm sure it's going to taste good. Here's my new multi-tool that I made. You got your poking end and your scooping end. Amazing. To be honest with you though, even carving that with the knife on the multi-tool was a little bit hard to do. It's just super dull. Can I just say real quick, Tim, could you pick stinkier foods like tuna fish and peanut butter? So I'm having a little post-dinner treat with these peanut butter crackers, but the tins that I cooked everything in and the wrappers from this, I'm gonna have to put pretty far away from camp so nobody comes and visits me in the night as far as animals and stuff. Okay, the water I collected from the creek in one of these bottles I've just dumped in there, and we're gonna bring it to a rolling boil so we can kill any nasties that might be in there. Here's the latest update. We've got our water right there, and that is boiling pretty much, so keep that going for a little bit, and then that'll be ready for putting some tabs in, and then it'll be drinkable. Got a stash of wood right there. So right there, yeah. So it's not enough for the whole night, but it's a start, and I'll keep collecting. And then let me take you over here to our resting location. So I've got my sleeping bag right there, obviously, that's the whole thing. I've got a couple items. I've got the astronaut blanket, I've got the whistle, and I've got the pepper spray and my water bottle, all accessible. And then the bag close by, just because, you know, if I want to grab a hold of it because the rain's coming, pull it under, and then throw that astronaut blanket on top of me, then it'll stay dry as well. So there's our step number for the day. Heart rate, 16.75 miles, 4,656 calories, and 89 flights. I'm lounging here on my sleeping bag. The sun is about to go below the horizon, just out that way. And yeah, so what I'll do is I'll collect some more firewood and just hang out and relax here. And I don't find I sleep particularly well, you know, in my like jeans and dress shirt and, you know, straight on the ground. So I don't plan on having an awesome night's sleep, but I'll rest up, and then when I feel like I'm not going to sleep anymore, I'll get up, pack up, and then finish the trek home. And yeah, so here's to getting a little rest. Here's me, and here's my view. Alright guys, as you can see, I've got my headlamp on. I've put it on the red option to save my night vision a little bit. But it's nighttime. I don't even know what time it is right now, but I've rested enough and I'm awake enough now that I'm gonna finish the walk home. So we should be home very shortly, and once we get back to home base, I'll wrap up the video. I'm coming up on home base now, and less than a mile easy for this last stretch. But what I'm gonna do is just I'll set up my tripod, give you a couple reflections on this whole experience. Home sweet home. I am sitting on my front porch. I'm gonna be going to bed very soon here, but I want to offer you a couple thoughts. I'm probably gonna do another video in the future to talk about kind of all the big takeaways I have from this experience, but I want to offer you a bunch of thoughts real quick here. Number one is this: footwear. Yeah, that's some tired feet right there. So I would definitely want to have better footwear, even if it was a pair of running shoes as opposed to these that have no arch support. So maybe it's getting a pair of running sneakers, using them a little bit to break them in, and then leaving them in the closet at work so I have a pair of, you know, if I have to walk a long distance type situation, then I'm good to go. So that's the first thing. Footwear, these kept my feet protected, but if it was rainy, cold, wet, you know, just the weather was bad, this would have been a lot harder to do. Number two, this is the tin that I was cooking the food in and heating the water in, and you could see it didn't burn or melt through. I had some concern about that, but both these things held up, so they're definitely not as good as like a, you know, stainless steel pot or water bottle, but they did the job. So just food for thought on that. I want to talk about the Ozark River multi-tool right there. Yeah, I would definitely upgrade to something else. This thing did not come sharp. It worked okay for the basic, you know, whatever this less than 24-hour scenario I'm in here. But if I really wanted a good solid multi-tool, I would be going with something else. I'd upgrade to a Leatherman probably. The Wingman is probably the most reasonably priced. So that's yeah, it did the job for what I had to do, but I would, if I really wanted to have a good multi-tool, this would not be the one I would pick. The fourth thing I just want to mention is weather. Like, beautiful weather the entire trip. So it was a little bit cool, like I said, a little windy, but it was not terrible by any means. Add some snow or some rain in there and it changes the scenario significantly. So that's just something to be aware of. You know, I would definitely, I have a poncho in my bag, but as far as anything else to keep me dry or, you know, my footwear, definitely I would have been uncomfortable. Good that I had the backup socks. I didn't really need all of them, but anyhow, that's another takeaway. Weather was very good, but if it was bad, the scenario could have been significantly different and harder. All right, so the last thing I want to share with you is that it's challenging to think about how to accurately simulate the spiritual, physical, mental, emotional, psychological stress that you would really be under in an emergency type situation. Like if a hurricane had really hit this area, if I really was not able to get in touch with my family, if really there was no way for me to get home but to walk. So I knew my family was safe at home. So as I'm coming home, you know, walking in the door any minute here, I'm not stressed that something's really gone sideways or are they hurt or something like that. So that's just always important to remember. You want to train as accurately or as accurately as you can, as close to a real life scenario. But you know, in a bug out, get home, bug in, whatever type scenario, it's always hard to, you know, do a one-for-one correlation to what it would really be like. So just mentally, the fact that I knew, you know, worst case scenario, if I like broke my leg, I could be like, hey, call somebody and they'd come help me. That might not be an option in a real get home type scenario like we're trying to play out today. I'm wrapping up here. Thanks for being on the adventure with me. Hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Thanks for all the comments on the first video, just, you know, asking, hey, have you done that next video? Have you done the test yet? That definitely motivated me to make sure I got out and did it soon. As always, feel free to leave comments down in the comments section. I'm always interested to hear what people think, thoughts, feedback, encouragement, you know, changes you'd make to the kit and things like that. But yeah, the $100 Walmart bug out / get home bag challenge ends here. Take care, everybody.